Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, so today is another day, alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to be able to come here. Obviously, it's a little cold, temperatures are changing, but may Allah reward again each and every one of you to be here this morning, inshallah. Obviously, for getting out of bed, it was not easy getting out of bed this morning, I'm sure, for many of us, because once off it was cold. Obviously, temperatures are dropping, and sometimes it's difficult to get out of a warm bed. So, how many of you prayed Fajr in the morning on time? Alhamdulillah. May Allah reward each and every one of you and allow everybody else to not just pray Fajr on time, but actually go to the masjid to be able to pray Fajr on time, inshallah. Okay, so we'll get started with our with our Ruku check here. Everybody had a chance to go through Ruku number 13, which is what we did last time, and learn, write down the lessons, write down your favorite ayah, and we're able to complete your homework. So let's get to our sharing part here, inshallah. Hear from a couple of you in terms of what was the lesson learned out of Ruku number 3. What was the theme of Ruku number 13 that we did last time? What was part of Ruku number 13 that we did last time? Yeah. Say loudly.
If you're a Christian, then don't think you're guaranteed paradise.
Okay, that's true. If you're a Christian, obviously, they're not guaranteed paradise. Neither is a Muslim, right? So that is important for us to know is that as a Muslim, we are not guaranteed paradise. We all have to work towards that. Zavir?
You're just talking about the people who weren't and were guaranteed.
People who were and weren't guaranteed. Who was anybody guaranteed paradise? Say again. A Muslim who works hard for the sake of Allah is guaranteed paradise. How many of you think a Muslim who works hard for the sake of Allah is guaranteed paradise? Yes? No? Maybe? Not sure? So are we? So again, the question is: a Muslim who works hard for the sake of Allah, is he guaranteed paradise? Why is he not guaranteed paradise? I mean, he's working hard for the sake of Allah, right? Why shouldn't he be?
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides who goes to paradise and who doesn't. Because
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides who goes to paradise and who doesn't, right? Even if we are working hard for the sake of Allah, which we think we are doing whatever we are doing for the sake of Allah, right? Sometimes we don't know if that is going to be acceptable to Allah or not, based on whatever we do, right? And it all goes back to intentions. How pure are our intentions of whatever we are doing? Somebody could be praying their salah on time, giving their zakah on time, going to Hajj, doing all those things, right, for the sake of Allah, and maybe more. But at the end of the day, it all depends on what was the intention of that person, right? And if those deeds are going to be acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. On the day of judgment, there would be cases of people who would be alims, right? You know what an alim is? Scholars. There would be scholars who would be thrown into hellfire, right? A man would come who would be a scholar of his time, and he would be thrown into hellfire, and he will ask, why Allah? I did whatever I did for your sake, right? I studied the deen, I was telling people what to do, I did it for you, but Allah will say that, your intention was not pure. You were doing it so you could be called as a scholar amongst the people. You were not doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly, right? So, and there would be other people like that, scholars, people who would have wealth, who would have given out wealth for the sake of Allah, but Allah will tell them to be thrown into hellfire because they did it, because they just wanted their name to be known that they were giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Not that their intentions were pure, that they were only doing it for the sake of Allah without that desire of being famous as a person who gives, right? So again, doing something for the sake of Allah is good, but we need to make sure our intentions are proper, right? Because everything goes back to the intentions. All right, who else? Okay, I think Musa, you were raising your hand. Loudly. I still cannot hear you. I still couldn't hear you. Loudly. No one easily gets to go to Jannah. That's right. No one easily gets to go to Jannah because you have to work hard, right? I mean, it's not. What was an example that I had, a while back about something about a buffet, right? Islam is not a buffet. You cannot make a choice also, right? You are given. You have to do certain things. Certain things you have to avoid, but there is very few things that you have to avoid, right? Islam gives you a lot of choices within a certain area. There is a boundary, you just need to stay within the boundary, not go outside of that, right? Okay, who else? Zam?
Two. One is the difference between asking questions and questioning someone. And the other one is in the last ayah, 112, it says, whoever submits to Allah and follows His commands, fear and greed will not bother him.
Fear and? That's right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we just need to make sure that again, everything that we do is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And again, it all goes back to our intentions. Okay, Isa?
Do not use words that can be confused as something bad.
Right, do not use, in our speech, whenever we speak, it needs to be clear, right? And our intention needs to show in that. We need to be able to use words that communicate the meaning. Sometimes people will say things and they will not really mean it, right? It's like that double-edged sword, right? You say something, but you don't intend to say that, and you really mean something else. And that is the confusing part, right? That is not how a speech of a Muslim needs to be. You say something, whatever your word is, you also stand by your word. You don't go back on your word. There is, and I'll quickly tell you a quick story. This happened in the time of, late after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu there was a time when a person, was caught. He basically had hit an old man. The old man had died, right? And he was called to justice. He was brought in. This was a young man who had done it, and he said that I did it by mistake. But again, the family of the old man, they were not willing to forgive him, right? They said, no, we want him to be punished. And basically it was that since he has killed the old man, he has to die for it also. And he said, I really need 3 days, to take care of something. And is there anybody who would I just need 3 days. Now the judge said that I can't let you go just like that. So you have to have a guarantor who has to guarantee that you are going to come back after 3 days. And this man looked around at the court full of people, and he said, is there anybody, I don't know anybody here, but is there anybody who would guarantee, who would stand as a guarantor for me? And again, think about it. This man is on the row of death, right? Everybody knows he has to be punished by death. And the guarantee is if he does not return, if this person goes away and does not return, then his guarantor has to die in his place because he is guaranteeing his return, right? So nobody was willing to stand up for that. And then he asked again, the judge asked again, and nobody was willing to, raise their hand. And then at the back of the court, a hand rose up. And there was a man who said, I will guarantee his return, right? And the person was relieved. He was let go and he went away. Now, who was the guarantor? Huh? It was not Umar. It was who? It was a scholar. Who's? Okay, it was Abu Ayyub Ansari who was the guarantor, right? Abu Ayyub Ansari was a Sahabi, right, from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the guarantor. He guaranteed that this person is going to come back in 3 days. Now, the first day came and it went. The second day came and it went. Now it's the third day. It's almost Asr time. The man is nowhere to be seen, right? People are watching out. And, you know, everybody's sort of now anxious because Abu Ayyub Ansari was a big Sahabi, right? He was not like any ordinary person. And, you know, he would have been hanged if this person doesn't return. And now the Asr time is going by and the time is now coming near Maghrib. And all of us know that, you know, the date changes at Maghrib time, right? For you know, from an Islamic calendar standpoint. So the third day would have been up by Maghrib. And it's, you know, Asr time is going by, the Maghrib time is coming near, that person is nowhere to be seen, and you know, it's almost like just a couple of minutes before Maghrib, and people are really anxious now because everybody's so concerned, everybody's like so sorry for Abu Ayyub Ansari that he had raised his hand, he didn't know this man, now the man is nowhere to be seen, and he would have been hanged, you know, in his place, because that is just what justice is that he stood as a guarantor. So right before, you know, the azan was called, Maghrib, somebody saw like a dust far, you know, because it was an open area, it was an open desert, right? So they could see some dust rising from distance. And then when a dust came, you know, the cloud of dust came near, they saw there was a rider on a camel, and then when it came closer, they saw it was this man sort of on a camel, you know, having the camel was running towards the city. So everybody was relieved. Oh, you know, this person has come back now. You know, they were congratulating Abu Ayyub Ansari. You know, thank God the man has come back. Now you will not be hanged, etc., etc., etc. And then somebody asked, you know, why did you even guarantee for him? You didn't know this person. You know, why did you guarantee? You didn't know if he was going to come back or not. And he said, all I knew was he was a Muslim. He asked for help, and I raised my hand. You know, I trusted him for that. You know, because a Muslim's word is a Muslim's word, right? And that is part of a character of a Muslim, right? Today, a lot of times we see people say something today and then, you know, they will not be able to fulfill whatever they said. And they will say, oh, you know, I forgot. Oh, you know, something changed. If you have to be at some place, let's say at 7 o'clock. Some people will not show up at 7. They say, oh, you know, they'll show up at 8. They may not even show up at all. The point is that even at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are many instances when he gave a word to somebody, he was there at that time, right? It was the word of a Muslim. And this is a quality that we need to carry in ourselves, is that if we give word that we will do something, right, we stand by our word. This is what a character of a Muslim is. Okay? All right, inshallah. So we'll get to our next session, inshallah here.